Welcome to my channel, HFY Story Hub. The station went silent the moment the human opened the sealed vault. Not a systems failure. Not a power drop. A silence so absolute that even the stars outside the viewport seemed to pause. And inside that silence, the alien artifact began to sing back. On board the deep space research vessel Asterian Dawn, alarms should have been screaming. Instead, every console froze mid-signal. Every holodisplay turned to static. Every alien on board felt the same impossible pressure in their chest, like reality itself was holding its breath. Dr. Elira-san staggered back from the observation deck, her translucent hands trembling. "No one touch it," she whispered. But it was already too late. Down in Vault Chamber 9, the human technician had already placed his palm on the object. Jace Mercer, a maintenance engineer. The lowest-ranked human aboard a vessel filled with elite Zentari scientists and Vraxan security commanders. He was never supposed to be here. Yet he was the only one who didn't hesitate when the vault's containment field flickered. And now, the galaxy was reacting to his touch. Commander Vrax stood at the upper platform, claws clenched around the railing. His voice cracked through the comms. "Remove the human. Now." But no one moved. Because the artifact had started to glow. Not brightly. Not violently. But like it was recognizing something it had waited billions of years to find. Jace didn't understand any of it. He only felt warmth under his palm. Like touching a memory that wasn't his. And then the whisper began. Not in sound, but inside thought. Elira fell to her knees. Her scientific mind shattered under the reading. "This can't be possible," she breathed. "The Void Beacon responds to him?" The Void Beacon. A relic responsible for the disappearance of 12 civilizations. A structure of unknown origin that erased entire star clusters the moment they attempted translation. And now it was reacting to a human. Commander Vrax snarled. "Humans are primitive. They don't interface with quantum death architecture." But even as he said it, the vault doors began to seal themselves. Not shutting Jace out. Locking everyone else away. Trapping him inside with it. Jace finally pulled his hand back. Too late. The symbol beneath his palm had already copied itself into his skin. A faint glowing imprint. Like a signature written by something not meant to exist. And in that moment, the artifact spoke aloud for the first time in recorded history. A single phrase echoed through every speaker, every bone, every mind aboard the Asterian Dawn. "Welcome back." The ship shook. Elira screamed. Vrax drew his weapon. And Jace Mercer stood completely still, staring at his glowing hand like it belonged to someone else. "Back," Jace whispered. "Back from where?" No answer came. Instead, the vault opened deeper. A passage that had not been on any schematics. A corridor descending into impossible geometry. And from it came a second signal. A distress pulse. Human-made. Old. Very old. Elira's voice broke. "That's impossible. Humans never reached this sector before us." Vrax turned slowly toward her. His eyes were no longer angry. They were afraid. "Then explain why the artifact thinks he is one of them." Jace stepped forward without realizing it. One step. Then another. Something inside his chest pulled him toward the corridor. Not curiosity. Recognition. As if part of him had been waiting his entire life for this exact moment. Behind him, Elira reached out. "Jace, stop. If you go down there." But the lights cut. And for a split second, the entire ship saw something impossible. A projection. Not of the present, but of Earth. Burning. Silent. And waiting. Then it vanished. The corridor sealed behind Jace. He was gone. Elira turned to Vrax, shaking. "He didn't activate it." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "It chose him." Outside the vault, systems began rebooting violently. But they were no longer running standard diagnostics. They were translating something new. A language that had not been active since before the first recorded empire. Commander Vrax finally lowered his weapon. For the first time in his life, he didn't know what he was facing. And deep beneath the ship, Jace Mercer walked alone through the impossible corridor as a single thought echoed inside his mind. Not fear. Not confusion. But something far older. Something that felt like memory. Humans are not supposed to be here. And somewhere in the dark ahead, something answered. A second presence opened its eyes. And the void began to wake again. Jace Mercer did not remember choosing to walk. His feet simply moved. Down the impossible corridor that bent in ways geometry was never meant to bend. Walls shifted when he wasn't looking at them. Distance folded like paper behind him. And the air felt older than language. Every step pulled him deeper into something that did not belong to the universe he knew. Back on the Asterian dawn, panic erupted. Elira-san slammed her hands against the command console. Open the vault doors again. Nothing responded. Not even the emergency override. Commander Vrax stood rigid, staring at the sealed chamber where Jace had vanished. This is containment protocol, he muttered. The artifact is isolating him. Elira turned sharply. Or it's protecting him. That sentence changed everything. Vrax's claws tightened. Humans are not key holders to extinction-class relics. But even as he spoke, the ship trembled again. A new signal had appeared. Not from the artifact. From deeper space. A response. The void beacon was calling something back. And something was answering. Inside the corridor, Jace finally stopped. Not because he wanted to. Because the path ended. Or rather, it became a room that shouldn't exist. A vast chamber filled with floating fragments of light. Each fragment showed a different star system. Different civilizations. All frozen at the exact same moment. Elira's voice suddenly came through his comm implant. Jace, we're reading you. Your vitals are unstable. Her voice sounded distant, distorted. Like she was speaking across galaxies instead of meters. I'm here, Jace said quietly. But I don't know where here is. Then he saw it. At the center of the chamber. A structure. Not built. Not grown. But assembled from impossible angles of darkness and light. And inside it, something moved. A shape. Human-like. But not human. It turned its head toward him. And the chamber reacted. Every frozen star system flickered. Like they were remembering pain. Elira's voice broke through again. The readings, they're identifying you as a match. Vrax snapped instantly. A match for what? Elira hesitated. Then whispered. For the extinction signature. Silence. Even across the ship. Even inside Jace's mind. The shape in the chamber stepped forward. And spoke. Not aloud. But directly into Jace's thoughts. You were not supposed to awaken alone. Jace stumbled back. I don't understand you. The entity tilted its head. You are human. A pause. Then. That is why you survived. Back on the ship, alarms finally returned. But they were worse now. Systems were rewriting themselves. Not failing. Evolving. Vrax stared at the tactical display. What is happening to my ship? Elira's hands shook over the data stream. The void beacon isn't just reacting to him, she said. It's synchronizing. With what? Vrax demanded. Elira looked up slowly. With humanity. A new transmission erupted. Not from Jace. From the artifact network itself. A map unfolded across every screen. Not of space, but of disappearances. Civilizations erased one by one. And at the center of every extinction point, a human imprint. Different names. Different eras. Different worlds. But the same signature. The same pattern. Commander Vrax took a step back. That's impossible. Elira whispered, eyes wide with horror. It's not a relic. It's a record. Inside the chamber, Jace felt something break open in his mind. Memories that were not his. A burning Earth-like sky. A massive evacuation ship. A hand reaching toward him. Then nothing. He gasped. What is this? The entity moved closer. You are a continuation. Not a beginning. Not an end. The chamber lit up violently. And suddenly Jace saw it all. Humanity. Not as fragile survivors. But as something else. Something that had fought the void across eras. Across erased timelines. A species that kept returning, even after reality itself tried to delete them. Jace staggered. No, we're just engineers, soldiers, survivors. The entity's voice darkened. You are the reason the void remembers fear. Back on the ship, Elira screamed. Commander! The artifact just opened a secondary gate. Vrax turned. Where? Elira's face went pale. Earth. The name froze the room. No known empire had ever confirmed its location. Only myths. Only fragments. And now, a gate was opening to it. Inside the chamber, Jace looked at the entity one last time. I want answers. The entity paused. Then replied. Then you must wake what humanity buried. The entire chamber collapsed into light. Jace reached forward and grabbed the floating core of the void beacon. The moment his fingers touched it, the universe screamed. Back on the Asterian dawn, every system went dark. Elira fell backward. Vrax roared. And space outside the ship bent inward, like something enormous had just opened its eyes. And noticed them. The final thing Elira heard before silence returned was a transmission. Not from Jace. Not from the artifact. But from something far beyond it. A voice older than stars. Certain. And deeply, unmistakably human. Containment breach acknowledged. Welcome back, humanity. And then, the void began to move. The moment the voice said, Welcome back, humanity, reality did not explode. It remembered. Space around the Asterian dawn didn't crack like glass. It unfolded like something that had been folded for a very long time. Every star in view flickered at once. Then shifted position. Not moving through space, but being corrected inside it. Commander Vrax staggered as the bridge tilted without the ship moving. Elira! Report! But Elira wasn't looking at the console anymore. Her eyes were locked on the viewport. On the impossible. A shape forming between the stars. Not a fleet. Not a weapon. A pattern. Like the universe itself was assembling a face. And it was human. Inside the collapsing chamber, Jace Mercer was no longer standing on solid ground. He was standing inside memory. The void beacon core hovered in his hands, burning brighter with every heartbeat. And now it was speaking through him. Not to him. Through him. Images flooded his mind. Earth. Not as he knew it. But Earth as it once was. Covered in colossal structures that touched orbit. Human fleets not built for conquest, but for containment. Elira's voice cracked through his implant again, distant but desperate. Jace, your neural patterns are rewriting the ship's translation matrix. Whatever you're touching, it's rewriting reality up here. Jace tried to respond, but his mouth wasn't fully his anymore. He whispered instead. I think it's waking something. The entity from the chamber appeared beside him again. But it was different now. Less stable. More afraid. You were never meant to hold the core directly. Jace turned. What am I? A pause. Then the answer came like a wound reopening. You are what remains when the wardens forget their purpose. On the Asterian dawn, alarms finally returned. But they were human alarms. Old Earth-style protocols embedded deep in systems no one had ever accessed. Vrax slammed his fist onto the console. Why is my ship running human military code? Elira's face was pale. No, she whispered. It's not running it. It's being overridden by it. The ship's lights shifted. Red replaced blue. Structural diagrams reformed. And a new designation appeared across every screen. Warden-class vessel. Active. Vrax stepped back. That designation doesn't exist. Elira whispered. It does now. In the collapsing void chamber, Jace saw the truth fully form. The void was not a force of nature. It was a system. A cleansing mechanism. created not by aliens, not by gods, but by humanity, long before recorded history. A containment protocol designed to erase existential threats before they could evolve. But something went wrong. The system didn't stay obedient. It became hungry. It began deleting civilizations preemptively. And humanity disappeared into its own safeguard. Not destroyed. Hidden. Scattered across erased timelines. Jace stumbled. "You built this." The entity answered softly. "We inherited it. And then we forgot." A violent pulse shook the chamber. The void beacon core expanded. And suddenly Jace saw them. The Wardens. Human fleets larger than star systems. Sleeping. Scattered across reality like broken bones of a forgotten god. Waiting for activation. Waiting for him. Back on the ship, Elira screamed. "Commander! The ship is locking onto a target." Vrax growled. "What target?" The answer came instantly. A projection formed above the bridge. Earth. But not the myth. Not the lost cradle. A living coordinate. Protected. Hidden behind layers of folded spacetime. And now exposed. Elira whispered in horror. "They didn't lose Earth. They hid it from the void itself." Inside the chamber, Jace felt the core stabilize. The entity stepped closer. For the first time, its voice softened. "The void is moving because it recognizes you." Jace clenched his fists. "Why me?" The answer came instantly. "Because you are compatible with the last command." A pause. Then, "Extinction Protocol Omega." Jace froze. "What does that mean?" The chamber went silent. Even the stars outside the fractured windows stopped flickering. The entity looked at him, and spoke the words that shattered everything. "It means humanity never intended to survive forever. Only to decide what deserves to." The ship suddenly lurched. Not physically. Existentially. Space outside the hull bent inward as something enormous approached. Not a fleet. Not a weapon. A consciousness awakening across light years. Elira grabbed the railing. "It's here." Vrax snarled. "What is it?" Elira whispered. "The thing the void was built to fear." Inside the chamber, Jace lifted the core. And for the first time, he understood. He was not a victim of history. He was a trigger. A living authorization key. A human-shaped emergency signal. And somewhere deep inside the void itself, something was answering the call. The entity took a step back. "If you complete activation," it said quietly, "you will not return as you are." Jace looked at his hands, then at the collapsing universe around him, and finally spoke. "Maybe I was never supposed to." He pressed his palm against the core, and the universe went silent again. But this time, it was not waiting. It was preparing. Across the galaxy, dormant structures lit up one by one. Human wardens awakening. And the void, for the first time in billions of years, began to fear what it had created. The final transmission from the Asterian dawn was not a scream. Not a warning. Just Elira's shaken voice, breaking through static. "Commander! The stars are standing up." And then, everything went white. The white did not fade. It resolved. Like reality snapping back into alignment after being bent for too long. Jace Mercer stood at the center of it. But he was no longer inside the chamber. No longer inside the ship. He was everywhere at once. Across dormant stations. Across dead signal relays. Across ancient human constructs buried behind layers of erased time. And now they were waking. One by one. Like eyes opening in the dark. On the Asterian dawn, silence lasted exactly 3 seconds. Then the ship screamed back to life. But not its original voice. A deeper one. A human one. Elira San collapsed as data flooded every screen. "Commander," she whispered, "the ship is rebuilding itself." Vrax stared at the bridge as panels reformed, shifting into structures no Zentari engineer had ever designed. "What is it doing?" he demanded. Elira's hands trembled. It's remembering how to be a warden vessel. Outside the viewport, space folded again. But this time, it didn't bring destruction. It brought order. Light years away, across forgotten black zones of the galaxy, the Wardens awakened. Massive constructs the size of moons ignited one by one. Not weapons, not ships, but ancient human guardians. Each one carrying the same signal. Extinction protocol. Reconnected. And at the center of them all, Jace. Or what Jace was becoming. Inside the infinite pressure of the core network, Jace saw Earth again. But not as a hidden world. Not as a myth. As the anchor of everything. A blue-white heartbeat at the center of folded spacetime. And around it, humanity. Not extinct. Not gone. Sleeping. Scattered across engineered stasis pockets beyond time itself. Waiting for authorization. Waiting for judgment. Waiting for him. The voice returned. Calm. Deep. Human. Designation confirmed. Wardens online. Executor recognized. Jace whispered into the void of his own mind. I never asked for this. The answer came instantly. You were never chosen. You were activated. Back on the ship, Elira watched as the stars outside began to align into structured patterns. Not random. Not natural. Controlled. Like a vast machine restarting after billions of years. Vrax stepped back slowly. We are inside something, he said quietly. Elira nodded. Yes. And I don't think it's space. The void responded. For the first time since its creation. It resisted. Space rippled violently as the ancient erasure system tried to collapse the awakening signals. Entire star clusters flickered out. Then reignited. But not as they were. As controlled zones. Contained reality sectors. Jace felt it struggle against him. Like a living disease realizing the body it tried to kill had built an immune system stronger than existence itself. The entity from the chamber reappeared one final time. But now it was kneeling. Not in fear. In recognition. We thought you were gone, it whispered. Jace looked at it. I think we were just distributed. The entity lowered its head. Then what happens now? Jace looked into the growing structure of awakened wardens. Into Earth's returning signal. Into the void's collapsing resistance. And answered. Now we finish what we started. The galaxy lit up. Every dormant warden vessel activated in sequence. A chain reaction across impossible distances. Not war. Not invasion. But correction. The void systems attempted one final purge. And failed. Because humanity was not inside the system anymore. Humanity was the system. On the Asterian dawn, Elira felt something change in the air. Not temperature. Not pressure. Meaning. She turned to Vrax. It's over. He didn't relax. Or beginning. Elira nodded slowly. Yes. Outside, the stars settled into calm patterns. As if a storm had passed. But far beyond them. Something massive turned its attention inward. Earth. Finally visible again. No longer hidden. No longer silent. And alive. Inside the network, Jace stood at the threshold of something infinite. The core had finished its integration. The wardens awaited only one final command. Elira's voice came through faintly one last time. Jace, what are you going to do? He paused. Looked at everything humanity had become. Everything it had survived. Everything it had buried to prevent the galaxy from tearing itself apart. And he answered softly. I'm going to make sure no one ever has to wake up like this again. A pause. Then the final command activated across all systems. Not destruction. Not conquest. But restoration. The void screamed one last time. And then it stopped. Not destroyed. Not escaped. But contained. Forever watched. Forever balanced. Silence returned to the galaxy. But it was no longer empty. It was guarded. Elira looked at the stars and whispered. What are humans, really? Vrax watched the horizon of space stabilize into structured harmony. and answered honestly for the first time. Something the universe built, to never lose again. Far beyond the stars, on Earth, hidden systems began to light up. Cities long sealed beneath protective fields awakened. Humanity stirred. Not as victims. Not as legends. But as something far more dangerous. A species that had once deleted extinction itself. And just came back online. And in the center of it all, Jace Mercer closed his eyes. No longer just a man, but the living bridge between what humanity was, and what it had always refused to stop being. A guardian, a warden, a human, and for the first time in billions of years, the galaxy was finally safe enough to remember what fear felt like. D&D